lot of seemingly disparate branches of knowledge coming together. And that's a skill that only grows with the person and the experience and contemplation of life. I find that just listening to him is a blessing. And if I had a choice of sitting in a church and listening to some, or sitting in a place like this and listening to Mr. Oliver LeGrande, I would, of course, come here and sit and listen to him. I hope you take notes when he speaks. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to ask questions. I hope, like me, you will tell yourself that when you grow up, you will be like we have students also from art class. They're welcome. And I guess after the remarks, during the remarks that Mr. LeGrande will be making, you will receive a list of all the exhibits here and a form asking you to suggest a title for the untitled piece. Are you ready for Mr. LeGrande? Well then, let's welcome him.
Thank you, Dr. Ralph Harvey. My young friends, I'm certainly happy to be here. And I'm wanting to say that I had no idea when I met Dr. Moore, before she was Dr. Moore, at Temple University, that I'd have a chance to come and be with Dr. Moore and with this fine university in this particular setting. So it's a pleasure to be here and to come and to be received by friends, some of whom I knew before I came here. And I guess I ought to pause for a moment. I guess you know you've lost one of the members of your faculty here last night. If that's news, I hate to be the bringer of sad news, but Dr. Carver passed, I understand, last night. Massive heart attack. You can't tell the minute nor the hour. And so he, a relatively young man, has passed on. I'm sure he's touched some of your lives at some point. But I tell you, I just want to talk and have a conversation with you, if I may. You know, a lot of people who give adjunct services, like our photographer and man who's videotaping this program here, why sometimes I think we take them for granted. They are artists in their own rights. And of course, I'm grateful that they are willing to invest their skills and whatnot in making it so that we have some sort of record of what we are doing here. Now, my young friends, I just want to talk with you, and I think I have about an hour, don't I, Dr. Ralph, something like that?
Yes, sir.
All right. And I hope that we...
10:20, between 10:20 and 10:30.
Yes.
We stop.
That's right. I'd appreciate if I can really elicit questions from you. And in other words, we're here, let's discuss this. I bring a certain facet out of experience to you out of the arts, but I want to talk about the broader context of art as it involves writing, the dance, all of the visual arts, music, and the performing arts, period. And I want to talk about it in the context of what it has meant to our particular group. Now, it's hard to ask you to bring your minds back to the time when first slaves were brought here, and on the ships that they were brought over on, the owners of those ships, who'd seen many of the women with babes in their arms jump off into the mouths of sharks rather than to come into a land where they would be slaves, felt that one of the therapies that they might bring to meet the situation was to have the African cargo dance. Well, you know, over the years, I think even the most prejudiced of the group have admitted that there's a great tradition of music and dance in our people. I think they've recognized that. They have been much more reluctant to spell out what a lot of scholars are seeing now, that really the greatest of the arts, having arrived by the coming of the African people, will really be sculpture. Because here's a group of people who make that particular facet of art woven all through their lives. It is an art, it is a living art, because they bring it into the small objects, bowls, spoons, chairs, you name it. They bring it into that. And as such, when they were snatched away and brought into the New World, of course, many of these arts were thoroughly discouraged unless they had some utilitarian value. But the making of images, the sculptures, these people who had been the creators of the bronzes of Benin, the megaliths of Gambia, the wood carvings of Dahomey, and the great knot culture, all of that massive culture in the western part of Africa, they certainly were discouraged. They didn't want anybody making no little images. In fact, they were afraid that somehow the African drew strength out of his culture that made it so that he took those images, why, it would have the same effect as the way they played the drums in Haiti there. When LeGrande, the brother-in-law of Napoleon, took his legions over there and attempted to conquer them in Cape Haiti there, they played those drums up in the mountain, and when that music died down, they rushed down and wiped out the best of the soldiers out of Europe. So you see these phases of art, the music, the dance, the sculptures, the great visual tradition and heritage of our people has played an extremely important part in their adjusting to the new world. I doubt that we would have been able to make it. And how did some of the women folk and the men folk react when they were brought into this land of slavery? They began to do things like this, using that as a tool by which they escaped from freedom. I can see Harriet Tubman up there singing as she passed by one of those great fields where countless blacks were hoeing cotton. She was over there and she's singing, steal away, steal away, steal away to Jesus, steal away, steal away home. I ain't got long to stay here. They thought she was talking about heaven. She's talking about claimed freedom. And she led 300 of them to freedom. She took that little bit of art as a social weapon, and it's something to tell them to come. And I can just see some of those boys down there, he's out there chopping cotton, you know, and here he is with his little sister, they're working, and the boy hears him. So that's our Harriet up there. I'm going. Little girl said, I'm going too. No, you too little, girl. No, I'm going. And she went right along with her brother. And Harriet Tubman took them. And by that revolver that she carried on the inside of her jacket here, and that stuff we call acidity, it's really something to make children go to sleep when they cry. She took them at all ages, women with babes in their arms. And she used that song first to beckon them to come. and she carried them to freedom. Now, I want you to look back and see if you find any place in history where another group of people thrown out on the raw dust of the earth after slavery, with nothing much but a song, that 40 acres and the mule that did not materialize for black people. Authors tell us that when they came there to Savannah, where that news was supposed to come back as to whether or not they were going to get that 40 acres and a mule, which would have changed the entire economic history of our people. But after centuries of extracting our lives, labors, and loves to build up the basic wealth of America, they threw us out on the raw land without a penny. They did better by the Japanese over there, who were expatriated and who were thrown into concentration camps during World War II. They did better by the Germans, whom they were fighting against. And when they won their land, they come with billions of dollars, our tax money, to repatriate and to get them started again. But not for the blacks. After all those years of slavery, I was sort of happy to see that recently I was sent an article that came out of Detroit, Michigan, and it told about John Conyers and some others trying to revive that issue of the theft of lives, labors, loves, and more important than anything, the identity of our people over centuries of time, and to ask the government to pay to make it so that some of our sons and daughters, you, would have the money to promote your education, that they'd make special concessions in the field of education where you needed money and other things. But I'm getting to the point, my friends, we have used that song for some of the most valid purposes of the human spirit as a weapon for our freedom. And then you come along, you trace it down. I don't have this, my remarks today, absolutely in the form of a lecture that you could take down just note by note. But I want to say this. If I could urge you, through my remarks here, to begin to do this, get some pegs that you put in the wall of time in your memory that are important milestones in our history. We'll think of one as an example. 1865, when the Emancipation Proclamation came, that's one. 1863, when the first one came, before they got the real one, 1865. When we went down and fought the civil rights cases, and when we were marching with another song, deep in my heart I do believe we shall overcome someday, and we got those civil rights actions. Brown versus the Board of Education. First it was Plessy and Ferguson that threw us back, and then we came with Brown versus the Board of Education. And every time we marched, we combined the rhythm of a marching body, like an army, with the songs that gave us hope and that drew us by the thousands into that. Let me tell you, my friends, if that isn't beauty, if that isn't what constitutes the beauty of a people, there never was a beautiful one. I looked around, as I said, and I have found no instance in history where as many millions of people were stolen from one land, not people who had a common language. There was no lingua africana, no common language among us. So we had to do the first thing after getting over the traumatic experience of being brought in those ships and those holes here, which was an awful thing in that middle passage. The first thing we had to do, we had to recover from the psychological shock of being taken away from our homes in Africa and brought here to begin to recoup, get it together, get these languages together. And when we got it together, what was it? It was one solid voice that said, "Let my people go." Time they came up with, and of course we were enslaved under the British too, see. But as soon as the Americans, they had their Revolutionary War, and the issue of what would happen to the slaves didn't seem to bother the framers of the Constitution when they put as a part of that preamble to that Constitution these words: "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, while at the same time enslaving our people." Now, when you see a group of people out there, and they're throwing out on the raw dust, but all they had is a song, that's about all it was. Shouts and hollers and field things to help them bear the work. Songs by men like Robeson. There's an old man called the Mississippi. That's the old man I don't want to be. Oh, what does he care if the land's got where his? Oh, what does he care if the land ain't free? Songs like that. And that other one he sang, there ain't no hammer on this mountain, ring like mine, boy, ring like mine. Done bust this rock, boy, making to Mobile, all the way to the jail, boy, all the way to the jail. So these were the way we got it together. Nothing but a song, just thrown out on the raw dust, expected to take the role of citizenship. No training, nothing. And then, after slavery, you would think that really there would have been some moral regress, some conscience tugging at America's heart. The fugitive slave law, which was backed by the central government of America, came over and gave sanction to the Ku Klux Klan, the Paddy Rollers, the Knights of White Camellia, and all of these groups determined to stop the march of black people forward. It was a bad time. My father knew more of it than I did, but I happened to come along right just inside the brink of the 20th century, 1906, and I had a chance to see those things come and many of them develop. It's a long way from that time now. You sit here in schools with a recognition somewhat that the most precious element we have in any society is you. With teachers who love you and who want you to know and grow. And it's a long, long way. But at every turn we use art. I could come down some of the modern ones. Maybe some of you have seen some of the great works in painting and whatnot of Jacob Lawrence, Huey Lee Smith, Charles Hale, and countless others who have documented this thing and tried to reach beyond the superficial sides and catch the misery, the great hope, and the great dream that gleamed in our fathers and mothers' eyes. My son's going to college. He's the first one they're going to take. Lucille, she's going to get a chance to go to college. She got a scholarship. Happy words, indeed. But as I say, all along the way, reiterating the lines of our County Cullen when he said, "You cannot keep me captive, worlds, entrammeled, chained, spit on, and spurned, more free than all your flags unfurled. I give my body to be burned. I mount my cross because I will. I drink the hemlock which you withhold for wine. And yet because I will not die, I live." That has been some of the story here. So art and literature, and the blacks have made their contributions in there. There's been great milestones reached by men like Richard Wright and his native son, and the writings that he came along, and Langston Hughes and whatnot. He's saying, let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America to me. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark? Who are you that put your veil across the stars? I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. Poets wrote it. Songwriters wrote it and sang it. Actors on the stage acted it. Native son and a raisin in the sun, all the way down. While they were doing that, they evidently must have inspired some other things, because we had some verse that we don't think about very often, but I think perhaps we ought to call attention to it, and we ought to realize that as these people have gone to the far reaches of the unexplored earth, like Matthew Henson with Perry had to carry, pick him up and carry him the last 30 miles to the fire, hope, a dream in their feet and in their determination. We shall overcome. So literature, as such, I think everything that we can read and get our hands on to make us know more about where we come from and see the wonder of that great journey. It's a part of the great diaspora that carried millions of us, torn brutally from the motherland, the umbilical cord snatched, left homeless, roofless. But we had another man with art who came back and captured some of that, and I'm surprised that he was able to orchestrate it so that he had 8 consecutive nights of the TV in Alex Haley's Roots. You see, we had to go back. That was inevitably a part of this long journey. Certain things had to happen before other things could happen, and that is one of them that we had to have. We had to have it evolve on down until somebody managed to hit upon this clue of going back and getting roots and making it so that roots was just in our eyes all around, and we became aware of it, and no one else could stay unconscious of it, and it showed a different picture of the family life at the hearth and at the center of village life in Africa. We've just started. And if all of this art served one of its great purposes, my young friends, I don't know what you plan as a career for the future, but I would hope that when we think about the role of this art, it would make some of us say, wait a minute, I'm going to study archaeology. I'm going to study anthropology, so that I can go back and investigate Henri Lotte, one of the great French ethnologists, went and investigated there in a place up in the up there in the Tassili-Nargier, that's up in the northern part above the Sahara there, and came upon a cave that there were so many snakes and adders in the place, they had to come in there and burn them out for 2 months before they could get to it. It's just as though they were guarding this great storehouse of treasure and information about our people. They found rock paintings on the sides of those walls in Tassili-Nargier there that go back 12,000 years before Christ. 12,000 years before Christ. And they show layer after layer of civilizations, places where they had those black judges and whatnot. And they struck at this myth that some Westerners had tried to keep alive, that the people in Egypt were fundamentally different to the Africans. They had many of the African kings who were black as ace of spades. You know what I mean? And they had them. So what I'm trying to say is that they went back and they began to study that. And now a number of African students are involved in the research there, and they found that the same works were created by the Negritos in Altamira in Spain, Lascaux in France, the caves of France, all by that same group before that great cataclysmic thing came to tore South America away from Africa. You know, it must have been a great day. All that land, it literally went under. You see, the earth hasn't always been like it is now, and this cataclysmic change, the lost cities of Atlantis. When I first read those, I thought that was some sort of myth. Then I found out and found Dr. Du Bois talking about it and others talking about it. And so there is a challenge, my young friend. If you don't want to be an artist who believes, as I do, that everything starts with the drawing board, I look at these ladies with these lovely costumes and whatnot, and I know it starts with the drawing board. You know, I see them with those lovely earrings, bracelets. Beautiful. It all starts with the drawing board. And if should one of them choose to follow the path of matrimony and get married, that starts with the drawing board. She said, I'm going to have 5 bridesmaids. So and so and so and so, and they plan it out. That's like life. Everything starts with the drawing board. And perhaps we might, with all logic, say that the mind is a computer and a drawing board. But the opportunities for self-knowledge, for investigation in adventurous fields of knowledge, archaeology, anthropology, in Africa and in the world, is out there before you. We need all the doctors and lawyers we can have. We need all, but we need some people there who are on the ground floor of these investigations in depth into the great storehouse of information that Africa still has for the world. Because some of the earliest civilizations in the world were there. I would hope that you would have a chance to do that. And you know, it's sort of a funny thing. I know this is, and I hope you'll pardon my diverting and going off on these personal things. But I saw a young Italian fellow I was in class with, and when they mentioned the great artworks coming out of the Middle Ages and out of the Renaissance in Italy, I could just see him swell with pride, you know. Yeah, those were my people. Leonardo da Vinci, you know, Michelangelo, all of those great people. Well, you've got the same thing. Picasso says that the great works of African art were the inspiration for the great cubistic movement. Brock, Clay, and some of the others say that that's where they got the inspiration for it, from the dynamic in African art. Friends, we haven't scratched the surface. We just not going to get out to where we get to the real stuff, the real challenging thing. I remember the time that if I went 500 miles from home, my mother would be worried, sick, just. I got over in Africa there. I was coming back at the Orly Airport, Heathrow in London, coming back now. I saw just plane loads of young kids, black too, now get this, 15 years old. Parents had permitted them to go over there. We're learning a little more about it. And C. Eric Lincoln had a group of people, for years he carried them over there to Accra, University of Ghana in Accra. And he was bringing groups out of them. Naturally, I was very pleasantly surprised when I got there and find out that out of the number he had there, I knew 14 of them from the cities of where I came from, Detroit, New York, and Chicago. And I said, but here's what surprised me, how young these young people were. And how different was the scope of their horizons to that of our parents. You see, the perspective that we are provided by our experiences really controls what we will see as the horizons. You have to have, you've got to form a view, you know, where you can look way over there. Some of these things you're ready at you, you'll take those, but you'll take them in stride. And you'll be challenged like most human beings are. The first trip to the moon was made when man stood up, no longer walking on all fours, became Pithecanthropus erectus, and looked up at the moon. That's a fascinating thing there. This great big platinum orb up there in the sky spangled with stars all about it, which is what the poet speaks about when he says a spacious firmament on high, all of its beauty and all of its grandeur. And when he saw that, he had to go to it. You first see it, and then the magnet in it pulls you. And so must the magnet of unexplored fields pull us. My friends, I'd like to see this, and I saw quite a bit of it during my lifetime. Young people whom I knew, they'd come up, I'd be way up in some other city, and even some of them in Africa there. Those that I knew, of course, these were adults like I was. But twice, I was getting on a plane in Paris, just to go up there, Mr. LeGrande. Young fellow called me I'd been up to the Shakespearean Festival in Ontario in Canada, and here comes this young fellow recognizing me from them. Mr. LeGrande, how are you doing here? The world's small now. You can get on a plane this morning and be in China tomorrow. You know what that means. That means that your minds have to expand to take in some sort of glimpse of the great civilizations there and other places. But more than anything, it seems to me, we gather small glimpses of where we came from whence we came. And I get a joy out of feeling sometimes when I do these little sculptures here. You tell you, they're Michelangelo, but I got behind me an ancestry that made the bronzes of Benin. Those great works. The megaliths of Gambia, wood carvings of Dahomey, all of that great earth culture, the rock culture, using the earth. So I look upon them and I see, as I cast my eyes about it, see here some of the better known. I see a lawyer here, a doctor, scientist here, physicist and anthropologist and archaeologist, so forth. All of that is within the realm of possibilities. Do as the Africans did. Make your learning also a part of your lives. Make it so that you have the opportunity of broadening horizons and recognizing that everything starts with the drawing board. If you're going to reach those great heights, you've got to sit down. They sit down and can tell you just how quick it would take this probe to get up to the moon. And of course, there's one thing about them. They practice one of the great principles of art, that we get nearer to the truth if we understand the meaning of rhythms in the universe. So when they went up there and stood up, bam, up against the moon like that, no, they got up there, they went around with that moon a few times and then glided on in. That's what the great pianist and musician said and meant when he said, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. You know, you got it, you know. That's what he's saying. He's saying rhythm in the universe is a part of the great truth that we must absorb in making our adjustments to it. Get in the rhythms of the universe. Make your horizons be expanded. I wonder if I might be pardoned if I made a couple of little remarks about some of the sculptures. And then after that, now wait a minute, please don't let me down. I hope you folks will ask me some questions because I can never know for sure what things you want to ask unless somebody up with a hand, see? See a hand, as that song says, or something like that. I want to. But you might ask, say, why and what I meant by this. This was one I did after having gone over to Africa. Please. But before I do that, she's going to give you the programs, telling you what these works of art are, and also she's going to give you a form there asking that you do one thing. And let me tell you one thing, folks, I must repeat it again. Your instructor there told you about what has happened here, the glorious thing that's happened, how $100 scholarship for the person who came up with the nearest approximation of the meanings of that piece of sculpture over there. I want you to give, please, if you will, hope everyone will participate in this, give a title to it. I call it Untitled, with a subtitle, In Joseph's Many-Colored Coat of Dreams. And I want you to think why you think that I mentioned that. I don't mind telling you that part of it. I left the woods, that's Honduras mahogany. I left the woods there as they were. I didn't stain the bottom part of it all because I wanted the colors, natural colors of the wood to show out. But I'll say this. Now, here's a few clues. Just think of how many times you've seen this. Where have you seen it? One other thing. How many times you've seen this? How many times you've seen a certain great poet, orator, say, I have a, you know what? And all of those things you take into consideration, and please give me a name for that, and also just a line or two saying why you gave it that name. And if you would be kind enough at the same time to tell me which of your pieces is a favorite, that'll help me a great deal. Because when I come, I don't know what school of art I fall into. I do portraits, which a lot of people feel passé, but I also try to do some things that I think perhaps are a little more in design, a little more abstract than that, like this piece here, and some of the others. So I regard myself as a maverick. So I want you to do that. But let's just say now, if you were making an analysis of a piece of art, maybe for this one, I'll go ahead and tell you. This is a piece that I did after going to Africa. I call it Heritage. If you'll note, the mouth of this individual is open like that. You notice he has a beard. And here's the dancer, controlled by the hand of the drummer on the drum. I call it Heritage. And please remember this. When an artist does a piece of work, there's a certain amount that is conscious that he can tell you about. But there's a part in the subconscious he can never tell you why he did that. And it is that subconscious that is below the peak of the iceberg. I can tell you the conscious part up on top. I'm going to do that. But the part that is underneath, I don't know why I did it. But I knew when I came back I had to do it. So I made this person here with his mouth open. How many of you know what the oral tradition is? Can I see a hand or two? Yes.
You're telling the story, telling the stories through word of mouth, passed down from generation.
That's the point. Those Africans were masters of that art of storytelling, and they passed events in their own history down just accurately, just like that. They didn't have a tradition of written literature, but they had this, and they say that some of them were masters of getting every small detail right into its proper place. Now, Here we go. So I did this, and I opened his mouth. That's oral tradition, and I call that a trumpet of truth. I gave him this beard to speak of the scholars of Timbuktu, Sam Corey, and Jana. You know, we had black. One Latino went out of the University of Timbuktu to go to Italy to teach them Latin. Such an expert was he in the field of Latin. We had men at that time who were performing lobotomies on the brain. And many, many things they were uncovering that those great scholars around Timbuktu had. So I made this as a trumpet of truth. I made this as the small container, so to speak, out of which they pour the bronzes of Benin as a great ark there. So I make this come down like this, which becomes an answer, which is controlled by the hand of the drum. Now, I pause just for a minute and read a poem, and there's a cue in that about one of my poems. There's a volume of my verse that just came out that is available for anyone who may want to buy a copy of it. And I should have one of these pretty ladies behind the desk taking care of this for me, but whatever, maybe we'll do that sometimes. But I want to read that one that sort of catches. It's in the chapter called A Week at Africa, and it's called ACLAImed. Sorry. I had the experience of going there and being in Lomé in Togo. That's the capital of Togo, one of those little finger nations right on the Gulf of Guinea there in Africa. I'm sure some of you are going to be over there. That was the capital. And every morning, this experience that repeated over and over from this scene of black diaspora, this is where it all began. This is where it all began. Now the lines for ACLAImed. At teats of ACLAImed, I suck the suns, fanned by the pond winds of ocean breathings, rapt thoughts my eyes, quest wanderings that agonize, fix the broad brood and break a many-mooded mask, in wave-rolled surge, hiding tails down, down, under fluid vaults of time. A light, I ask. In retrospective ingrown pain, I assuage desire that seeks this veil to throw, relieve the secret cotton chapters locked below this birthing, these roots in yestertimes. The sharp teeth, apples of ingenious greed, now reverie before beginnings, long diasporas till yet, shrouded in mist and main. The cry circumstance through season, sea and sky, pulled by a sure-bound host that taunt the ear and bid the eye insistent. The fretted ebon limbs beat weavings in the drum chant dance on earth with ancient orgies and rhythmed hymns. Telltellers celebrate the spirit act before the mother womb over the roar of aged cryptic silences. Necklace cloth and image in the round, they do not bind, shackle, halt. My hands move underground for minds of men, my father's footsteps, then to now and when I stride the ocean floors of whited bones calling across the night. I find dark teats of motherland to drink a new world's breaking light. So you can see that some of that refers to that. Now, I've tried to bring a number of pieces here. A number of these are, as you see, in bronze. And this is one of my favorite ladies, Harriet Tubman. Right in there battling with us. Beautiful. Just beautiful. Well, here's a little lady that dances a little. I got to know her, Pearl Primus. She danced her PhD in anthropology at Columbia University. The only person before or since who's done that. That's in bronze. This plaster copy of George Washington Carver, the bronze of it is in a school just outside of Detroit. This study of our Martin Luther King is in the Capitol Rotunda in bronze in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the capital of the state of Pennsylvania. The different ones. Now, you know, I'm going to stop and let you folks ask me any questions you may have or comment, please. Now, if I get 4 or 5, I'll say, you know, speak up here. Speak up for your class. Speak up for yourself. Thank you. Yes?
What was the inspiration for number 9?
Number 9? I always know that this will provoke some questions, and I'm glad it did. I call this, it's a sort of a tongue-in-cheek thing in which I got interested in all these nice forms as they show the child in the prenatal stage, and I cut off the pelvic girdle as a crown for it, as a base for it, and made the child while he's in the womb a king who is served by the host, the mother's body. And I called it Oedipus Reckless because I was thinking about Oedipus Rex, so that's a little humorous takeoff on that. Now, the Freudian School of Psychology has chosen the Oedipus complex to indicate a boy who is in love with his mother sexually, who wants to return to the womb symbolically. So here this person has achieved that. And where he sits just as a king. But I said, he's about to be born. I'll put that crown up there, just about to drop off like a chrysalis with a butterfly. He'll be out in the cold world. So I wanted to play with these forms. This is sort of a modern concept. Playing, all of them are the same, some up, some down, whatnot, except the crown, which is a contrasting counterpart. All right now, please. I see some of these people kind of whispering to each other, whispering up here to me. Well, could I then, if not, could I ask the group to please feel free at this point, if that's agreeable, to at least go up and look at my show individually, pass around it. I think we've left space for you to pass around each piece and see it. And then please sign up. Am I overlooking anyone? Is there someone who, I'm like a minister in some of our churches now, is there someone who would come? Please come. So, please.
What's the connection between the phoenix phoenix and African American heritage?
Yeah, you know, the phoenix is one of the mythological birds that is associated with a part of the world where we are, the desert, you know. They have the eagle in North America, and in many countries they got eagle up over the phoenix bird, who's mythologically, the myth said he every 500 years he burns his nest and himself, and it immolates himself and rises. That's where we speak of the phoenix rising from the ashes for a new life, a new birth. And so I just wanted to play with that because that is one of the myths that come out of the Arabic countries that I wanted to include in this group.
my little friends, come, not one. I'm gonna sit down now for a while. And please, now I'll try to answer you from the seat somewhere here, if I may.
Good morning.
Thank you so much. So good to see you.
You really have had the opportunity of hearing a man who is a Renaissance man. He's a dear and old friend of mine, and I don't know how much of the detail you were able to hear when you started this morning, but I just wanted to share with you the fact that Mr. LeGrande really has a background that is most exhausting when you look at it. He's a graduate of the University of New Mexico. He attended Howard, the Cranbrook Art Academy. He did graduate work in art and special education at Wayne State University in Detroit. He's been a teacher, a special assistant to the vice president for undergrad studies at Penn State. He's been an artist in residence at all 21 branches of Penn State. We really have had someone with us who is both profound as well as well known, and I just want to let you know that you are in the presence of a great, great man. You're talking to someone who knew Paul Robeson intimately and who knew the greats of Black history. This is history before you. Would you like them to come up and see the exhibit, maybe the first and second row? How many of you would like to just walk past and see some of it?
Thank you very much. Good, good. Hi, Paul. How you doing? Hi there. Good. How you doing, young lady? Good, good. I'm going to get out of the way so you can get around and get to see the sculptor and not be bothered with me. Thank you. Thank you.
Tomorrow between 10:30 and 12:30, although there will not be a lecture here, those of you who might want to come back and look at the sculptures and sit with them a while are Mr. LeGrande, where are you? You want to say something about the Kenta cloth while you're here?
Significance is the different colors. Well, I don't have anything here.
This is what number one is about, right?
Well, no, that's all right. No, I'm glad you asked me these. Honesty is the first thing you want to get that in dealing with that. And I think, now, see, guess what? This in Joseph's Many-Colored Coat of Dreams is a subtitle. Let me get to that first. I did that because if you know the story of Joseph in the Bible, and he had that many-colored coat of dreams, which was a part of his whole prophetic influence that brought him into the favor when his brothers had sold him into Egypt. You remember? Okay. So that coat that he has on there, I left that wood like it is, just like it is to represent a cloak. When you see a person doing like this, I want you to think of some of the many things where people do that.
They're hailing somebody.
That's one thing, it's testimonial, but there's thousands of little boys and girls in places over the country who are trying to break out of the ghetto by putting that ball in the bed, in the hoop. With that, Martin Luther King says, "I have a dream." Another. The Black Power salute was that way, or they had his hand doubled up. Same thing. And you've seen some of these sisters and brothers, when they get really the spirit moves, they say, "Oh, Lord," you know, up with all this testimony. Testimony. That's what I'm talking about, to some degree.
Yeah, would you come forward, all the ceramic students?
So, pardon me. Yes, yes.
I was wondering, in 3 and 4, when Aretha sings,
Yes.
what's the significance of the black and the white?
Well, I tell you, when you get to be an artist as great as she is, I was in Detroit then, I saw and went down to her father's church. Now she'd be singing in there, inside the church, and for 2 blocks around they'd have loudspeakers to accommodate the thousands of people who'd be out there to hear her. And she'd be doing something kind of like a dance, but she'd have a tambourine and singing. Total commitment to her art. All right, when you get an artist like that, they are black, but they stretch all the way from the black to the white is white. So she's neither black nor white, see? So she's universal spirit of art, from one pole to the other. So I wanted to make it, and one of my little students told me, says, "Mr. LeGrande, said that shows that this kid's a mental retarded. That shows that a black woman can make a white shadow." Yeah. Profound, you know what I mean?
That's right. Thank you. Have you done any stuff on Malcolm X?
I'm working on Malcolm X and Dr. Du Bois, and they didn't have room enough to accommodate my whole show. I got about 10 more pieces that I usually carry around, so I didn't get to bring those at this time. I felt I needed to do some work on both of them, see. So, but he's one of my favorite men. Yeah, really. Yes.
Do you know what
I beg pardon?
Do you know what that symbol is on here?
What's that? A little loud.
Symbol on here. Yeah.
That's the other hand here. He's trying to pull the bars from off his heart so he can be free. He's clutching at those bars. You see, that's one thing about when people deny your freedom, they don't let your heart be free to express itself.
Right.
See what I mean? You can't have full expression because they keep you involved.
Gentlemen, would you please take your hats off?
I have a question about the sculpture number 22.
Yeah.
Young man,
The
would
wheel,
you take your hat off, please?
like the machinery.
Yeah, that's a little,
Across his body.
that was a cover for a magazine, an industrial magazine. See, fire, water, earth, and air. And so those lines are in one of my poems. And fire, water, earth, and air scooped up and riding high, bright prophecies of days to come, mixed in this mortar and hurled from dust to dust. So I just use that fire, water, earth, and air, you see, out of that context. That's what, you see, you'll see him, he's got in his hand, he's holding earth. He's got that fire there, you know, that's coming up from the base, and earth and air. See, that's the process by which the earth was a large part of it. A lot of the great changes we have seen in the earth come when those volcanic eruptions or earthquakes, you know, and